Good morning, Sunday, week 5 of the NFL season. You're here with Football Diehards Sunday DFS show with Jason Brady. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad we at least still have some games to talk about. I know we lost a couple, but there are still really good plays. Really excited to talk about them on this Sunday morning here.
Yeah, exciting. Of course, the one game was canceled this morning. Denver and New England. Of course, that doesn't affect DFS. And the Tuesday game is kind of in question right now this morning. And of course, that doesn't affect DFS. So we're rocking and rolling. How about let's start with the quarterbacks again, as we usually do.
All right, going through my top plays here for today, and we will start with the quarterbacks. Up top, Patrick Mahomes at 7,700 versus the Raiders. 55.5-point game total, highest on the slate here. The Chiefs are the 13-point favorites. Stackable with guys I like, of course, Hill. You got Kelsey. You got even Sammy Watkins is having a good year this year. High upside tournament play on any given week for Mahomes. Lots of touchdown upside in what should be a very high-scoring game for Mahomes here. And a pretty solid matchup here against the Raiders. So if I was to spend him at quarterback, it would probably be Patrick Mahomes this week. I know I liked Josh Allen a ton, but that's not possible. So if I'm going to pay up for quarterback, it's going to be Mahomes.
Yeah, excellent. And right now, Mahomes is at a 6.8% DFS ownership. Not bad, is it?
It's not bad, especially for the upside that he brings. And you'd think it'd be a little bit higher owned than that.
Yeah, and by the way, I forgot to mention if the customers want to see those ownerships of DFS, they can go to the website on the top left corner or under the daily games page. It's under in there. And if you're not a subscriber, you can subscribe with the discount code of Diehards and get 15% off. Just get the flash update, which is the cheaper one, and you'll still get the ownerships. Sorry for that
Yeah,
message. Let's move on.
No, you're good. That's a very good tool to have. I mean, ownership is very, very important. That's how you make the big money. You get those low owned plays with the high upside. It's big. It's big.
Yeah, I'm a cash guy initially because I'm still growing into to the GPP, but just sitting there and going through and just looking, it's just so beautiful to just look at the ownerships, and as you go down and you see players that you like, and then you see the dollar value, the salary. It's just a fun thing to glance over, and you can catch some guys that may really be people you want to play. So that's exciting.
For sure. So getting into the next play here, and it is Joe Burrow at 6,000 versus Baltimore. Not the best matchup, but it does have a 51.5-point game total. The Bengals are 13.5-point underdogs. I believe the biggest underdogs on the whole slate. And the Bengals should be coming from behind, leading to more pass attempts for Joe Burrow. Maybe some possible garbage time upside, which we love in the DFS here. And he is averaging 22.1 DraftKings points, and he has thrown the ball 177 times through 4 games. He is throwing the ball a ton. Joe Burrow brings a ton of volume. And for DFS purposes, I think it's a decent play here. Probably decently low ownership as well. Just a solid price for the volume that Joe Burrow does bring here.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. His ownership is 2.7%.
Mm-hmm.
And the only worry I have is we got a rookie quarterback on the road in Baltimore. They're tough, and they're kind of a little pissed off because they lost to Kansas earlier in the year. Of course, they've got some injury concerns, but if Burrow can survive, the first quarter or so of intensity, he's got, I think it's 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That's a nice ratio for a rookie. He's an interesting play. He's risky, but he's a low ownership. I like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how many times they're letting him throw the ball. I mean, he's a rookie and he's going out there, and I believe he's like top 5 in pass attempts. It's crazy.
And the interceptions are, relatively low. It's a risk when you're going to be behind like this with a rookie quarterback to get some more interceptions, especially against Baltimore. But it's a nice low-owned play.
Yeah. Okay, so getting into this next one, and I don't think it's going to be as low owned, and that is Matt Ryan, 6,100 versus the Panthers. This is probably my favorite quarterback play on the slate, factoring in the price, factoring in the upside of Matt Ryan, factoring in the matchup, 53.5-point game total. Falcons are 3-point favorites, tons of volume from Ryan, averaging a little over 40 passing attempts so far this year. I remember last year he was throwing the ball like 50 times a game. He's throwing it a little bit less so far, but he did have a 50 pass attempt game earlier in the year. The wide receivers are a little banged up, and that's my only concern here. So got to kind of monitor that as the game approaches. But he's way too cheap for the volume that he does bring, and he has a great matchup here against Carolina.
Yeah, let's see. 10.6%. He's the third highest owned, but 10. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I expected it to be around there. You can't really ignore the upside, and I don't get the price at 6,100. Like that's way too cheap. I know he had a bad game last game, but they priced him down.
Yeah, that's very attractive, isn't it? Wow.
Oh yeah. All right, so going to get into some punt plays here for quarterback, and we'll start with Daniel Jones versus the Cowboys. 53.5 point game total. The Giants are 8.5 point underdogs. Fantastic matchup against this terrible Cowboys defense. And there's a nice punt price at 5,400, stackable with Evan Ingram, Slayton, Tate. And I wouldn't say there's crazy upside here, but this is the Dallas defense, and they're giving up a ton this year. So I would never typically play Daniel Jones ever, but 5,400 versus the Cowboys. Like the Cowboys are getting destroyed on defense this year. So I don't know. It could be one of those plays that are very, very cheap and could score a couple touchdowns here against this defense.
Yeah, I think people are going to be interested in Jones. He's at 8.85% owned. A little bit, getting up there. I think people. I mean, Dallas has given up so many. I don't think Jones has had a touchdown since week 1 when he threw 2 to Slayton. But, man, it's the Dallas Cowboys, so good opportunity. Good punt play.
Exactly. Yep. If you want to play Daniel Jones, now is the week to do it.
Do you have another punt?
All right. Yeah, one last punt, and this is a huge punt here. It is Kyle Allen, 4,100 versus the Rams. I believe he's getting the start today. 46.5 point game total. Washington are the 7.5 point underdogs. And there's not much upside here with Kyle Allen, I don't believe, but it does allow you to play basically whoever you want. Extremely cheap here at 4,100. Not a bad look in cash. I don't know if I'd go there in tournaments because I don't really see him doing much, but maybe he's able to get a touchdown, maybe 2 touchdowns, and if he does that, he more than definitely hits that value at 4,100.
That's a low number, 1.65% owned.
Yeah.
And he did have some big games last year. He had some great games last year until the second half of the season, and he started throwing interceptions. I don't know whether they'd figured him out or, whatever happened, but he does have the talent to play. He showed that, even though they traded him last year, etc. Remind me when we get to the running backs. Man has a question about whether he should go with Derrick Henry, so we'll do that later. Another guy asks if he should go with Murray or Watson at quarterback. Any thoughts on those two players?
Yeah, I'd probably go with Watson. Although he hasn't been that great so far this year, he actually kind of bounced back last week. But against the Jaguars, it's not bad at all. 6,100. Honestly, I'd rather pay up for the top guys like Mahomes, like Lamar Jackson. But he's probably low owned. What's Watson's ownership?
Watson is the number 1 owned quarterback, 17%.
Oh, wow.
And I think the reason is because of coaching change. I think people are expecting this team to rally around themselves, which happens a lot. I don't have the stats, but I think that's the situation. And Kyler Murray is at 5.6% owned, so those are interesting.
I wasn't expecting Watson to be that high owned. I mean, he hasn't been, all that great this year, but yeah, it's a good matchup. So I'd probably go Watson if I was to pick between the two there.
Yeah, I think people are expecting that because of that. One of the listeners just said Jacksonville can't stop a nosebleed.
Yep, that is true.
So that is another attraction for that game.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get into the running backs now. We're going to start up top with Ezekiel Elliott at 7,800 versus the Giants here. One of the highest projected game totals here. Fantastic floor and ceiling here for Zeke. Crazy volume with already 100 touches on the year. Great pass catching upside. He's caught 23 balls so far this year as well. Touchdown upside in what should be a very high scoring game. You can never go wrong with Zeke. And you'll kind of see a theme. I like to target either the Cowboys offense or I like to target the Cowboys defense. It just seems like the Cowboys in general, like their games typically score very, very high for daily fantasy sports. So I think Elliott's a great option here.
Yeah, he unfortunately he's highly owned. He's the number one owned running back.
Hmm.
People are catching on that. But yeah, he's it's kind of interesting. Do you think he's losing a little when they get behind the Cowboys and they start throwing? Even though he's a great receiving running back.
Yeah. I mean, he's losing a little bit, but I mean, they're still passing him the ball a ton. So I guess in a way, it could be helping his floor out a little bit, just getting those pass attempts.
That's a good point. I like it.
Yeah. All right, so getting into the next play here, Kareem Hunt 6,500 versus the Colts. The Browns are 2.5 point underdogs, 47.5 point game total. I believe there's no Chubb for about 6 weeks, and it's not the best matchup in the world here against the Colts, but the volume will most definitely be there. Reception upside, he's caught 8 balls so far this year, 5 touchdowns in 4 games, and of course, all of that was with Chubb. And this is going to be, in my opinion, the cheapest we see Kareem Hunt up until Chubb returns. So I want to jump on it now. The volume is there. It's not the best matchup, so it might scare a little bit of ownership away, but I think Hunt will have a pretty good game today.
Oh, Hunt wants to make an impression. He's still very upset when Kansas City cut him, and then when they won the Super Bowl, he was upset. He
Oh yeah.
publicly said he should have been on that team. So he wants to make a statement. He's a great player, maybe not a very nice person, but a great player. And the Colts are going to be tough. But then again, he's got both. He's got the running and the receiving skills to catch a lot of balls if they're stuffing the run. So yeah, that's a good play. 12% owned. He's the fifth best owned, most owned player, running back this week. So he's up there a little bit, but I like that play. Like you said, the salary is going to go up.
Yeah, like you said, he may not be the best person, but he's very, very talented. So
Yes,
there's that.
definitely.
All right, so getting to the next play, Josh Jacobs, 6,300 versus the Chiefs. Seems like he's way too cheap here. I don't really understand the 6,300. Has some really good upside, high game total, and he's been more involved in the passing game with 13 receptions on the year, and that's something I really wanted to see out of Jacobs. Last year, they didn't really throw him the ball much at all, but seeing him already get 13 receptions, I think Jacobs is going to have some high upside going forward, and in a high-scoring game here against the Chiefs, in a game they're probably going to be trailing, if he's getting those passing attempts, 6,300 is pretty good, and he can run the ball for sure. Like he's a beast on the ground as well. So 6,300 is not a bad look for Jacobs in a decent matchup here against the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs defense has been looking good, but they should be trailing, should be catching the ball a little bit. Maybe he finds the end zone in a very high scoring game. I think it's a pretty solid play here.
Yeah, 9.2% owned. He's up there a little bit. I think if they could get Ruggs back or Edwards back, they need the passing skills to be there to kind of stretch that defense a little bit, not take too much away from them, but keep them from going 8 or 9 in the box, whatnot. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's another nice play. I like that. Very skilled player.
Yeah.
Let's hope he's
yeah.
healthy.
For sure. So getting into the next play here, this is probably one of my favorite running back plays on the slate for the price. I love the matchup, and that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 56.5 point game total, highest on the slate. Chiefs are the 12.5 point favorites, so in theory they should be running the ball a little bit more. Pass catching upside and touchdown upside in what should be a high scoring game here. 20+ touch upside and a great offense in the Chiefs. Just way too cheap for Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 6,800. It seems like no matter who the Chiefs put back there in that RB1 spot, they seem to do very good. And Edwards has been doing very good so far this year. So he's had some tough matchups thus far this year. When he had a good matchup against, I believe it was Houston in week 1, he did very good. And he's getting another really good matchup here against the Raiders. So I think he should dominate here at 6,800. I like it a lot.
Yeah, he is the number 2 highest owned running back, as you expect. He's going to be high owned, so you have to deal with that. But yeah, he sounds like a good play. 6,800, very nice.
Yeah, for sure. Another high owned play here, most likely, and that is Mike Davis versus Atlanta, 53.5 point game total, which is one of the highest on the slate as well. Panthers are 3-point underdogs. Great matchup against this pretty bad Falcons defense, ranked 29th so far against the running backs. And Davis has that high reception upside you love to see in cash. You like getting that nice cash floor there. Might be the last week we get to use him. I believe McCaffrey's coming back either next week or the week after. So got to kind of jump on now if you want to jump on the Mike Davis train. He's been fantastic the last couple weeks. Touchdown upside in what should be a very high-scoring game. 6,400 is not bad. He's going to get a ton of receptions. I believe he has like something like 25 receptions his last 3 weeks. So he's been doing very, very well, and he has that PPR upside.
Yeah, third highest owned running back. Yeah, he's really done well. He's an interesting guy because he's got pretty good talent, and of course he's been a backup, so you already hear about him, and especially with a guy like Christian McCaffrey, he never gets an opportunity until there's an injury, and he has done well, and like you said today, you can take advantage of that.
Yep. All right, so last running back play here. It's a punt running back play, and that is David Johnson, 5,200 versus Jacksonville. Like one of the viewers said, Jacksonville can't stop a nosebleed. So David Johnson at 5,200 should be a pretty solid play here. Texans are 6.5-point favorites, 54-point game total, very high total there. Just seems like way too cheap for David Johnson at 5,200. I know he hasn't been doing the best, but he's averaging 12.7 DraftKings points and averaging 15 touches per game. So the volume is there. The matchup is there. He has 2 touchdowns on the year and even possible touchdown upside here in what should be a very high-scoring game. And he's also catching the ball as well, 14 targets, 9 receptions on the year. So don't really get the price. I think it's a fine punt option if you go down and get David Johnson at 5,200.
That sounds great. And the fourth most owned. So these running backs are juicy and people are owning them, so you got to deal with the ownership there as far as GPP is concerned. Couple questions on the board here. The Derrick Henry, do you think where does Derrick Henry? Oh, wait a minute.
That game's postponed.
It's already postponed. Yeah, never mind. Let's go with the next question.
Yeah.
Antonio Gibson's versus the Rams. What do you think?
Gibson is somebody I like. I mean, this is somebody who has been getting better as the weeks go on. I remember in week 1, I really wanted to play Gibson, and a lot of people were on Gibson. Like, he was very high on running back play because he was so cheap, and he didn't really perform well, only 6.4 points. But after that, week 2, 12.2 points. After that, week 3, 14 points. After that, week 4 against Baltimore, tough matchup, 22.8 points. So he's getting better as the weeks go on. If that pattern continues, I mean, he's going to have a good game here against the Rams. So yeah, I don't hate Gibson at all at 5,000. Pretty cheap there. He's able to catch the ball as well. 4 receptions in week 4, 3 in week 3 there against Cleveland. So yeah, Gibson's a pretty solid option if you do want to pay down.
And he's 4.7% owned, which is not a bad
Very
thing.
owned, yeah.
That McKissick guy, he's starting to catch the ball too. Of course, they did really well. Washington did in the passing game in that game. I don't know if McKisson's a threat, but definitely McKisson's is a guy who's almost like a receiver when they get late in the game and they're throwing the ball. Another guy mentioned, Legal One Zed mentioned that Duke Johnson's is back. He may steal some of David Johnson's catches. Yeah, I guess he's definitely he's a catchable guy, but I still like David Johnson as a play there.
Yeah, I mean, when Duke was healthy in week 1, he didn't really do much. He only had like 5 touches. They did bring him back in week 4. He had about 8 touches there. So he's going to take a little bit, but still, at 5,200, it's a pretty solid option as well.
It'll be interesting to see also, of course, obviously with the new coaches or the whatever interim coach, what he does. Is he going to change any of the play calling and those things? But that could favor David Johnson also.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, so we're going to get into the wide receivers now, and we're going to start up top with DeAndre Hopkins at 7,900 versus the Jets. 47-point game total. Cardinals are the 7-point favorites. Poor game last game, which should lower his ownership. Has that monster game potential. He's someone that can go out there and score 30, 40 DraftKings points on any given week, and maybe this is the week to do it against the Jets. Very good upside here. Tons of target upside as well, and he has that crazy high ceiling I'm talking about, crazy high floor. Great spend-up option at wide receiver if you were to spend up. I think Hopkins is a pretty good play. I'm curious to hear his ownership. I know he had that bad game last week, but still should have some decent ownership as always.
It's dropped down a bit. He's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth wide receiver at basically 12, just under 12% owned.
And that's pretty crazy because we've been seeing him like in the top 3, top 5 all year so far. So maybe that bad game really took some ownership off the guy. So.
Good opportunity for that at this point. That's an excellent point. Yeah, that's really low.
Yeah, and speaking of a bad game last week, and that's Calvin Ridley, 7,500 here versus the Panthers. He's still fifth in wide receiver points, even after putting up a zero. And he does have another great matchup here against the Carolina Panthers. Scoring zero his last time, that should as well lower his ownership. People are going to be very concerned about that. I do expect a bounce back here from Ridley in what should be a high-scoring game. I guess he had an injury going into last game, could be kind of a concern, but I was watching the game and he was open in the end zone like 3 times, and Matt Ryan just simply did not throw it to him. So I don't know what was going on in that game, but I do expect a bounce back from Ridley. Of course, you cannot expect another 0-point performance, and I think he has a ton of upside against a poor Panthers defense here.
Yeah, Ridley is 15.9% owned. I thought it was funny in that game when the announcers were replaying the last play at the goal line where the quarterback, Ryan, was looking to his right, and there's Ridley on the left side waving his hands. Just nobody there. And unfortunately, Ryan, they had the set play, and I guess it was there or it wasn't there, and he threw over there. If he'd have just glanced to his left, I mean, I'm sure that. I mean, what do? I mean, remember old Sandlot days when you went back to the huddle and you said, "Hey, I'm open. Throw me the ball." I mean, here you are in the NFL, and he goes back to the huddle. Is like, I was wide open.
Yeah,
well, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, they missed some opportunities with him, but yeah, it's a good bounce back. He still is 15% owned. That's probably lower than he usually is. What a talent! This is going to be interesting to follow it this week, and hopefully he's healthy.
Yeah, hopefully it bounces back here.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so getting into the next play, and that is Tyreek Hill at 6,900. I like this play a lot versus the Raiders in this high-scoring game with the 56.5-point game total. I don't really understand this price for Hill. He's someone who has scored in every single game so far. He has high upside each and every week on this Chiefs offense. The Chiefs offense is someone I typically like to target because they do good pretty much every week. They have that high ceiling, and should be pretty popular. It seems like a lot of the Chiefs are going to be popular this week, and rightfully so. Hill is averaging about 18.8 DraftKings points, which is pretty solid, but he does have that like 25, 30 point upside if he can get a couple touchdowns, maybe a long bomb, towards before the halftime or whatever. But give me Tyreek Hill here at 6,900.
Yeah, he's number 2. He's only at 17%. So you have Robbie Anderson at 29, and then there's a big jump to Tyreek Hill. So not bad.
29. Wow.
Yeah, everybody's on him. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll talk about him. But CeeDee Lamb 6,000 versus the Giants, 53.5 point game total. Cowboys are the 8.5 favorites here. Touchdown upside in what should be a high-scoring game, averaging 17.1 DraftKings points per game so far. 29 targets on the year, so he's getting pretty solid volume and a great offense in the Cowboys. And I do love the price here at 6,000.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was looking at the thing. Who are we talking about?
CeeDee Lamb.
Sorry. Too many questions
good.
are coming in. Obviously, I'm not very good at looking at questions. Only a 5% owned on Lamb.
Wow. And people love the guy. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, he's been a hit. I'm stunned he's that low. I guess it just maybe they think Amari Cooper is going to be the guy because he's a lot more owned.
I feel like a lot of people can be the guy in Dallas. I mean, they're scoring like 40, 50 points a game. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy what's going on in Dallas right now. I feel like it's just a DFS hotspot right now.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. A couple quick questions before I forget. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's Atlanta. Zaccheaus, Zaccheu. You know him?
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I believe Ridley, Julio's questionable, and Gage is all going to play. So if all three of those play, he's probably not going to be a good play. But if Julio does miss, maybe you can play him in some lineups. But I believe all three of the receivers are playing this week, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree. If Julio's playing, it's really not worth. He's not worth it. Is that an early game? Yeah, that's an early game. So you're going to find out whether Julio's playing before you have to do your DFS or your lineups in the season long. So just watch that. If Julio doesn't play, he may be a play. Let's see the other guy we've got. Oh, a guy has a question on whether you should start Renfro for the Raiders or Sammy Watkins today as a starter.
Ooh. We'll talk about it, but I do like Sammy Watkins a lot. So I'd probably go Sammy Watkins there, and I'll talk about Watkins really soon here.
Yeah, if Ruggs or whatever is not playing, maybe Renfro is a guy. Let's see if there's any.
Yeah, Renfro's a decent play, especially at 4,100. It's just the matchup's kind of tough. This Chiefs defense, in the passing game has been really good. I believe they're first against the wide receivers so far. So
That's
I don't know.
wild.
It's
That's wild.
yeah, it is wild because the Chiefs typically don't have the best defense in the world. It's usually their offense that they're known for, but their defense has been so far so good.
Yes, good points.
All right, so getting into the next play here. Oh, you're good. And it's Jamison Crowder, 5,800 versus the Cardinals. Very good matchup here against that Cardinals defense. He's been very good whenever he's healthy, actually averaging 24 points in his 2 games there. 23 targets through 2 games as well. The volume he's getting is crazy. Way too cheap here at 5,800 for the upside he's bringing so far. And he should be pretty low as well, I'm guessing. But I like the matchup. I like the volume. I don't, the price is just seems a little bit too cheap for me here.
Which player are you talking about?
Jamison Crowder.
That's what I thought. I'm sorry. Again, I can't handle questions and thinking at the same time. Thank God I'm not
you're good.
dumb. 5.6% owned for Crowder.
Yeah, I expected him to be very low owned. I mean,
Nice.
but when he's playing, like it's crazy. He's doing really good.
He's getting a lot of targets. He's got talent. He showed it last year. He had an incredible amount of targets and excellent catches. He's a guy who you can take advantage of. And again, the health issue is the concern. How hurt is he? Everybody's getting hurt now about this time of the year. But that's a good play. I like that.
Yep, and then this is I guess it's the highest owned wide receiver play on the slate by a decent margin, and that is Robbie Anderson versus Atlanta Falcons, 5,900, 53.5 point game total, one of the highest on the slate. The Panthers are 3-point underdogs, and he is averaging 19.7 DraftKings points per game. He's averaging just about 9 targets per game as well. Fantastic matchup against one of the worst pass defenses in the league in Atlanta, and just a high upside at a very nice prices. The problem is that ownership is really scaring me. So I'm curious to know what DJ Moore's ownership is. He's only about 200 more than Robbie Anderson, and he still, in my opinion, has about the same amount of upside. So if DJ Moore has like half the ownership of Robbie Anderson, you could pivot to DJ Moore. But I think even both guys are definitely in play this week. My preferred play is Robbie Anderson, but that ownership is scaring me just a little bit. 30% is kind of crazy.
Yeah, 29%. Moore is at 13.6, so a little less than half.
So like that, yeah.
Does this make
Yeah, so
Bridgewater a play?
Yeah, I think Bridgewater is in play. I mean, I like both of his receivers, but there are some other options I like. But yeah, Bridgewater against the Cardinals is fine. He did really good last week.
He's just a little under 9%, Teddy Bridgewater. So whatever.
Yeah, he looked really good last week.
Yeah, what's interesting about Robbie Anderson, looking at the in-season, is I drafted him several times in season late. Nobody draft this guy. And the group think is you're starting to think maybe I'm missing this. Maybe this guy's not going to produce. And I kind of lowered as I drafted, because I drafted 20, 30 leagues. I thought maybe I've got this wrong. Maybe this guy's not going to be that good. And now I wish I'd have drafted him more. I just can't believe how the points he's been putting up, and I don't see it to change.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I drafted him in my season long too. I mean, I think it was like one of the last picks of the draft for me. So he's been fantastic so far. So hopefully he keeps it up.
Yeah, I guess Bridgewater is facing Atlanta. One of the players said, which makes him even more attractive.
Oh yeah, Atlanta. You're right. Yeah. All right, so getting into the next play here, and that is Darius Slayton versus the Cowboys here. 54-point game total. The Giants are 9.5 underdogs. Should be trailing this game, leading to more pass attempts. Dallas's defense is very, very bad. Dallas is ranked 31st against wide receivers so far this year, and he is averaging about 7 targets per game. Very nice price here at 4,800. It should be a high-scoring game here. Like I said earlier in the video, I like to target this Dallas defense, and Slayton has been getting consistent targets. He has that upside. So 4,800 seems like a really, really good play here. You could also play Golden Tate, another one of the wide receivers, and then we'll talk about the tight end Ingram in a little bit. But Slayton at 4,800 is somebody I'm really going to go to this week.
6.6% owned.
Not bad at all.
Not bad. What's
Yeah.
ironic about, just going back to where we're talking about that Zachuish guy, he's actually 11% owned. So I think a lot of people probably think that Julio is not going to play this week or is going to be injured enough, but we won't know that for a few more hours.
Yeah, that could change for sure. All right, so
Excellent.
getting into the last play here, and it's kind of a pump play at wide receiver, pretty cheap play here, and that is Sammy Watkins, 4,500 versus the Raiders, very high scoring point total here. Good matchup here against the Raiders, not the best defense in the world. Solid upside at this price of 4,500, 27 targets this year, and that's something I like to see because it seemed like last year they weren't really using Watkins as much as I'd like them to, especially because I had him in season long, but he wasn't getting a lot of targets. And this year so far, 27 targets. That's pretty good, and he has some upside here. Nice pump play in Watkins, who has been more involved against a bad Raiders defense on this good Chiefs offense. So, yeah, Watkins at 4,500 makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, let me go. Answering another question. Sorry. 11% owned for Watkins. Up there
Not
a
bad.
little bit. Not horribly
Yeah,
high, but a little bit concerning.
yeah. I thought it'd be a little bit higher owned. I mean, a little
He,
bit lower owned, but
yeah,
people are definitely seeing it.
he's been getting more targets. That's so
Yeah,
he's viable.
yeah. I think it's the price. Like 4,500 is very very cheap.
Yeah, and you're able to spend a lot of that money on other people,
Yeah.
so other players. So yeah, that is an attractive play. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. All right, so we're gonna get into the tight ends now. Travis Kelsey, 6,400 versus the Raiders. I'm expecting him to be one of the highest owned tight ends here, and rightfully so. He has a fantastic matchup in what should be a very high scoring game. Lots of upside here for Kelsey, as always. He has that elite ceiling, especially in a game like this. That's going to be very high scoring, very good matchup. Not a bad spend up option if you do want to go up there at tight end. I know I typically like to punt down at tight end, but if I was to go up, I'd probably get Travis Kelsey here at 6,400, or another guy we'll talk about in a little bit in George Kittle.
Yeah, Kelsey's at 10% on the fourth on tight end.
Fourth, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's not bad, especially for Kelsey.
Now Mark Andrews drops all the way down to just under 6%. So there's a big space right there, and he's an injured player, so that may be why.
Yeah, Andrews is tough. It seems like he's not getting as much targets as you'd like him to, but he's still scoring. So I don't know. It's weird. He's still getting it done, but he's getting like seems like half the targets he was last year.
Yeah, the whole offense there in Baltimore kind of isn't where it was. He's still really effectively the number one receiver in Baltimore, but it's concerning
Hmm.
those targets are down. Even though he got those touchdowns, it is a worrisome thing, and maybe that's why his ownership has dropped down.
Oh yeah. All right. So next we got George Kittle, 6,600 versus Miami. Monster game last week. 15 targets, 15 receptions. I couldn't believe it. He had 183 yards and a touchdown, 43 DraftKings points as well. Obviously, he has high upside with high volume coming his way. Solid matchup against this Miami defense. He has another good matchup here. So, is he going to get out there and get another 15 target, 15 reception game? No, probably not. But does he have a lot of upside? Yeah, he sure does. Every single week he does. So, another solid spend up option here at tight end. It's really, if I was to go up and get a tight end up top, it'd be between Kelsey and Kittle. And honestly, it's pretty close there. Both have very good matchups and both have very good upside.
Interesting, their difference in salary is 200 points from what I can see, and Kittle is at 12% owned, which is only 2% owned more than Kelsey. That
Yeah, so
surprises me.
yeah, yeah, that is surprising there. But regardless, both are pretty, they're top three and top four in ownership, right?
Yes, Kittle's number one. Uh, Ingram's just behind him. Waller's just behind him, and then Kelsey at 10%. So they're all fairly tightly snug there, those
Okay.
top four. And then there's that huge level break that starts with Andrews.
Oh yeah. Okay. So we'll get into a play here, and that is Dalton Schultz, 4,800 versus the Giants. He is questionable, but I believe he's going to play this week. A decently high point total on the slate here. Schultz should get plenty of opportunities. He had 72 yards and a touchdown last week against Cleveland. He's averaging 7 targets per game, so the volume is there for Schultz. He has a good matchup against the Giants, and just a decent discount off the price of the top guys here. And he honestly still has that upside there. Not as much upside as a Kelsey or a Waller or a Kittle, but at that price, I do think he can possibly find the end zone here in what should be a very high scoring game.
Yeah, 4.2% owned for Schultz.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
So this next play is probably where I'm going to in tight end, and like I said, I typically like to pay down at tight end, and this is probably my favorite tight end play on the slate, factoring in the salary, factoring in the matchup, factoring in the upside, and that is Evan Ingram at 4,600 versus the Cowboys. Like I said, I want to attack this Cowboys defense, and Evan Ingram, he hasn't been doing all that great this year, but he's still getting plenty of opportunities, and there should be plenty of scoring opportunities here against this Dallas defense that is not great whatsoever. And he's definitely my go-to tight end this week at 4,600. I just think that is way too cheap here for Ingram against this Dallas defense. He had 10 targets last week and 30 targets on the year. If you give him 10 targets against the Cowboys, he's going to have a fantastic game. So hopefully they target him here against the Cowboys. I'm assuming they will. I'm assuming they're going to possibly be trailing at some point in this game. So should get a ton of action here for Ingram, and just a high upside play overall with a fantastic matchup here. Can't really ask for a better matchup this week.
Man, if you can't play Evan Ingram this week, especially with that salary, I don't know when you'd play him, other than the fact that he's the second highest owned tight end, 11.4%. This is a great opportunity for Ingram.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't get it done against Dallas, come on.
We'll see. Maybe Dallas will change their ways. What upset me about Dallas, and I didn't, I'm a red zone watcher, so I'm just like, I don't see the whole game. But at the end of that game, Dallas got close, and then the end around to OBJ, after he got around the lineman, I don't know if you noticed, and he went down the sidelines, and a couple three Dallas defenders kind of went by, got blocked out of bounds, and then they just kind of stood there out of bounds and watched him run by when they could have tried to get him. That really concerns me when players take that off. My wife thought I was going nuts. I was screaming at the TV. What the heck are you guys doing? You just step back in the field. What is wrong with you guys? You're a professional football team. That tells me that that's a one situation that's at the end of the game, but I still don't like that. I don't like that. That makes me worry about what's going on in the heads of those defensive players. Are they really trying that hard? Yeah, I'm being a little overreacting, but
no, I agree with you.
Cowboys defense. That really upset me. It still makes me mad. In my
for
old
sure.
flag football days, I wouldn't have accepted that.
I feel
good
it.
play. I like it. He's a quirky guy because he's got such talent and he has some huge games, but the consistency is never there. And of course, the injury issue's always been one for him. But there's still room for that guy to have some great games.
Yeah, and he's like 2,000 less than those top guys up top. So hopefully he gets it done because I'll have a lot of them this week.
Yes, all fingers crossed.
Yeah, and then we'll touch on defenses a little bit. Typically, I like to punt down at defense, and I'll tell you the defense I'm pretty much going to a lot in my cash games this week. Rams defense against Washington. Of course, Kyle Allen's coming in. It's not good for Washington right now. I mean, I believe McLaurin is beat up himself. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. I'm assuming he plays, but he's still beat up regardless. And the Rams defense has actually been pretty solid so far this year. So if you do want to pay up for a defense, I think the Rams are fine. Obviously, the Ravens defense has been fantastic against going against Cincinnati here. Another defense I like if I was paying up would be the Steelers against Philadelphia. Steelers defense are very good, averaging 9.3 points so far this year, 8 points in week 1, 13 in week 2, 7 in week 3 there. So Steelers are having themselves a year defensively. I mean, I'm very impressed with their defense. But going down a little bit, we can talk about the Browns defense against the Colts. This is one of the lowest totals on the game on the slate here. So I think the Browns defense is fine, and that's pretty much where I'm going in a lot of my cash games due to the low point total. Due to I don't think the Colts offense is all that great, and it should be a very low scoring game there. If you do really want to go down and punt, I mean, there's not much down there. You got the Bengals against Baltimore at 2,300. If you think that Baltimore's offense is not where it should be right now. Other than that, the Dolphins, you don't want to play the Dolphins, but yeah, there's really not much down there to really punt at defense. Carolina Panthers is interesting. Matt Ryan has not been looking all that great as of recent. If that keeps up, Maybe the Panthers at 2,400 could be a decent option, but I'm definitely looking to more so pay up for defense this week, or I like the Browns there at 2,700.
Yeah, and the Browns are 1.5% owned, so they're fairly
Yeah, it's
low
not bad.
owned, and there is some opportunity there in that game. Yeah, and like you said, those
Uh,
top three you just mentioned are the top three owned defenses, which makes sense. They're all hot. Baltimore's at home against a rookie quarterback. That all makes sense. That Cleveland's a good punt, and those three are obviously good opportunities if you want to pay up. I don't know if 4,000 is pretty high up there, but
yeah.
you may have room. You may have room, and it's been tough at defense. Indianapolis did well for us 2 weeks ago, but
hmm
defenses have been hard to stream and predict for DFS.
Yeah, as always though, because you never know when a defense is going to go out there and get a sack or get an interception, get a touchdown even. So the most hardest position to predict there at defense. So that's typically why I like to punt down. But it seems like a lot of people are paying up for defense this week.
Makes sense. It definitely makes
hmm
sense. But Cleveland's an interesting idea. Definitely an
Yeah.
interesting play. I've got to decide what I'm going to do here in a little bit.
So we have any questions? That's about all the
We had
players
a
for me.
handful of
Really looking
questions
forward.
here. I think I got
All
them.
right.
They were. I'll throw them at you just to see what your opinion is. I'll just go up the hill here a little bit. It
All right.
says here, and one of them is James White, which is the game. It was that game's been postponed, so
Yeah,
that
that
doesn't count.
game's
He
postponed.
said, Do I play Mostert, Raheem Mostert, James White, and I guess that was all it. So that was pretty easy since I guess White's not playing.
Yeah,
So
Mostert's.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, if White's not playing, yeah, you got to go Mostert.
Mostert,
There you go.
Kelly, Crowder, or Jefferson in his flex PPR.
Kelly, Crowder, or Jefferson?
Yeah.
I'd probably go Crowder. I mean, I'd ride the Crowder train here. He's been doing fantastic against his Arizona defense. I like Crowder at 5,800.
Yeah, and this is probably an in-season question. That's a good answer. Definitely a good answer. And somebody actually said, this is a funny one. AJ Green or Crowder in a trade. I said, who wins in that? I'm sorry. That was just a question. I'm mixing things together. AJ Green. Would you start AJ Green or Crowder?
Oh, Crowder for sure. I
Crowder.
mean,
Yeah.
Green has been pretty, I mean, disappointing, and especially against Baltimore here. Green's only averaging 6.5 DraftKings points, so I think I'd go Crowder. If you want to get like way different, to maybe take a shot on Green. I just don't see it this week against
No,
Baltimore.
I don't see it. And T. Higgins is starting to play well.
Yeah,
He's starting to edge in
crazy.
there as a guy to consider. I love this one. It says, who wins in a trade between Gurley and McKinnon for McKinnon?
Whoever's getting Gurley should win. I mean, since Mostert's coming back, right?
Yeah, it should be. I put no one as a joke, but I think you're right.
No.
Gurley is he's not gonna get that many touches as you would hope,
hmm
but he seems to take advantage of them. He's been scoring still,
Yeah.
so he's still a viable starter.
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns last week.
Was it two? Wow, that's pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I think that's all the questions we have right now. So
All right, sounds good.
those were good ones. All right, well, great. We got a good set here. I'm going to go get my lineup set, and I guess we're all good as far as DFS. Even if they postpone the Tuesday night game, we're good. So nothing else is
hmm
happening. So no news should affect DFS, and we're happy with that. Anything else you'd like to say for Sunday morning, week 5?
No, I'm really excited. I'm feeling confident in my lineups here, and I'm ready to make some money. Good luck to everybody, and let's have a good Sunday here.
Sounds great. We got our fingers crossed, and we'll see you on Tuesday with Kyle at 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
Sounds good.